Ian the Future Garry is in the express lane to becoming one of the biggest stars of the UFC, but it's not just the Irishman's dominance and similarities to Conor McGregor that are catching fans' attention. In fact, there are a lot of controversies currently surrounding Garry that are stealing the UFC headlines, like the very awkward situation going on with his wife that has just been exposed, as well as the UFC welterweight champ Leon Edwards now kicking Garry out of his gym. Yep, that's right. Ian Garry, who spent most of his time in England training at Team Renegade, was recently banned from the training facility because, according to Leon Edwards, he always came late to training and brought along a camera with his wife, which didn't sit well with the rest of the crew.
The difference is with Ian was like when he comes in, he brings his camera with him, bring like his girlfriend with him. He's late to the sessions. There's a lot going on, you know?
Garry said that Edwards' dislike towards him stemmed from his insecurities since they compete in the same division and he was a direct threat to Rocky's throne. Since two swords cannot fit in one sheath, Garry said that he was forced to leave, but that's not entirely true, according to Team Renegade's Veronica Hardy.
I mean, it's a bit sad because I don't think it's necessarily Ian himself. I think there's influences around him that you can see it.
And even Garry's teammates aren't impressed with his selfish attitude and lack of professionalism.
He's very much a me kind of fighter, whereas I've always been a we kind of fighter.
Now, going back to Veronica Hardy, talking about influences, she is allegedly referring to Garry's wife, Layla Lee, a TV presenter turned author, who has even written a book on how to attract athletes. The book has terrible reviews, by the way. So anyway, as far as Garry's career trajectory is concerned, Layla Lee allegedly sits in the driving seat and makes the most important decisions, like what he should and should not say on camera.
What's your thoughts on that?
I'm going to interrupt 1 second.
I know.
But regardless, Garry speaks highly of his wife.
My wife is the most intelligent person I've ever met. That's why I married her. That's why I fell in love with her. She's f***ing awesome.
For Garry's diet in particular, Layla Lee brought nutritionist Richard Cullen on board in 2021, and Cullen allegedly lives with the couple in their residence in Dublin. That's not the fun part, however. Here's a bombshell of a fact. Richard Cullen is Layla Lee's ex-husband. According to Layla, however, it's all smoke and mirrors. Neither does Cullen live with them, nor does her How to Be a Wag audiobook have anything to do with her personal life, and if anything, the book is a parody.
I wrote a book called How to Be a Wag. Now that statement itself is a little bit of a stretch. I can hardly call myself an author of an 11-page audible-only satire story that was written in 2010. Anyone who takes it as fact has completely missed the mark.
Despite her clarifications, Strickland isn't willing to hold his horses, because after the UFC middleweight champion found out about the news, he was quick to state his opinion.
Now I'm finding out you're 26, she's fucking 40, the ex-fucking husband lives with you, you took the last name, motherfucker, she wrote a book on how to be a wag. I didn't know what a wag was until now, dude. This shit ain't right, dude. She's a succubus. You gotta run away, bro.
He even followed up on Twitter, accusing Layla of being a gold digger and a sexual predator, stating, Ian Garry's wife is a sexual predator. She sought out a young athlete to seduce because she's getting old and still wanted to be famous. Garry didn't like Strickland's brutal opinions on his personal life, and the two almost threw down after having a run-in at the UFC Performance Institute.
So guys, I went to the PI today, and I ran and cucked Ian Garry. Awkward, man, awkward. He looked at me hard, you know, security had to escort us around. I think you're a ass kid who got some that was too good for him and it got in his head and you up. And I look at you like a victim.
But bad publicity is still publicity for Garry and his wife, who are gaining popularity by the day. But before becoming a controversial figure in the MMA world, the Irishman was just another kid on the block hoping to make it big in life. Born and raised in Port Marnock, Ireland, Garry started his martial arts journey with boxing at 10 years old, but after watching his compatriot and former champ Conor McGregor rise to unrivaled heights in the UFC, he got the itch to do something similar. Since Garry was already a handy boxer, he started learning judo to develop an all-around MMA game, getting so good within years that he snagged a black belt by the time he hit 18. At 19 years old, he had his first amateur fight, and a couple of years later, Garry made his MMA debut at Cage Warriors 101 on the 16th of February 2019, defeating James Sheehan by a unanimous decision. The Irish sensation's next 6 fights in Cage Warriors were a wild ride. However, he went on to destroy everyone in his path, knocking out 4 of his next opponents and submitting 1 before earning himself a welterweight title shot against Jack Grant at Cage Warriors 125 in June 2021. The fight was fairly one-sided and Garry won the title by unanimous decision, although his opponent was tough as nails, being the first opponent he hadn't finished since his professional debut. It was around the same time as his title victory at Cage Warriors, where Garry had met his wife-to-be, Layla and Ali. After cleaning out his division in Cage Warriors, Garry signed with the UFC, following in the footsteps of his idol, Conor McGregor, and after making a successful promotional debut at UFC 268, Garry continued his winning ways in the UFC, defeating Darian Weeks and Gabriel Green by a unanimous decision at UFC 273 and UFC 276 respectively, before earning his second stoppage win in the promotion against Song Kenan at UFC 285. Since dominating fighters wasn't getting him the recognition and spotlight he deserved, Garry upped his pre-fight promotion game, aka psychological warfare, because a couple of months after taking out Kenan, Garry fought the scary Daniel Rodriguez. Heading into the fight, the Irishman once again took a page out of his idol McGregor's book and offered a perfect prediction.
My fight IQ is so much greater than everybody else. My brain will just tick, and I've already got the map in my head. Like I can tell you how I'm gonna knock him out.
Do it. I want to hear it.
Right high kick.
Mystic Ian went out there, put Rodriguez on rubber legs with a right high kick, and then finished the job with some cherry on top follow-up shots. Garry's next fight was supposed to be against Geoff Neal at UFC 292, the pre-fight promotion of which took an ugly turn when the Irishman used Neal's mugshot to sell t-shirts. It was Garry's wife Layla and Ali's idea, and Neal didn't find it funny.
I'm like, you think that's funny? Like, there's nothing funny about it. Like, you put somebody's mugshot on a shirt and like that's funny, that's tasteless.
Unfortunately, Neal never got the chance to take his revenge since he had to pull out of the fight, making way for Neal Magney to step in on short notice and take the fight. The heat was still on as Garry went off on his new opponent, accusing Magney of being a child abuser because of this.
Afterwards, they come out. There's the whooping that you give somebody in high school, like, or in grade school, so when he'd tough on my mom and you put the beat him on there. And there's a whooping that you give your son now, like to kind of teach him life a little bit. And being a father, I've become quite accustomed to that kind of whooping now, and that's kind of what I'm looking forward to giving on Saturday. I mean, I know he's out there, he's very...
When the two entered the cage come fight night, Garry whooped Magney. He beat him from pillar to post to keep his dominance in the cage intact and won the fight by unanimous decision. But while he has been pretty efficient during fights, he has had his fair share of troubles outside the cage. For instance, Garry almost put his fight against Magney in jeopardy by organizing a secret open workout at an Irish pub. It was kind of crazy, with a bunch of enthusiastic Irish fans taking over the pub to watch Garry throw punches, talk on the mic, and amp up the vibe. However, Garry's little get-together didn't sit well with the Beantown law enforcement, but luckily he avoided jail time, although he definitely didn't learn his lesson.
And the thing is, every fight now I'm going to do something like that, and I'm going to make it bigger and more chaotic, and I want to cause trouble.
So anyway, as for Garry's next fight, he was meant to fight Vicente Luque at UFC 296. However, it has just been announced that he will no longer be fighting due to a supposed case of pneumonia. Do you guys think this is a legit story? So as of now, whether you love him or hate him, Ian Garry has been dominating the UFC scene, and we're yet to see if he will follow in the footsteps of the Irish legend Conor McGregor when he comes to face the toughest opponents in the division. If you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel and check out another one here.